Hey, Angela. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, thank you, Anthony, for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm excited because I think your story is just interesting, and I can't wait to learn more. So, I mean, just to sort of tease it all, you are an ex NFL wife. Is that basically how you frame it?
Yeah, I guess you could say that, because that's the piece that gets the curiosity going.
Yeah.
That's what gets me in the door. But what keeps me in the door is the actual transparent truth, where I talk about not only the monetary or the materialistic side of the supposed lavish lifestyle of the rich and famous, but I also talk about like the down and the dark and the dismal times that, propel me to be determined to overcome those obstacles. So I like endured a lot during that time, as a former NFL wife, but not without enjoying a lot of the perks. I don't want to dismiss it as, yeah, I don't want to dismiss it as if, my life was just so awful, because it absolutely was not. It was an amazing journey that affords me the opportunity to sit before you now and actually tell my story. So, and then writing the book was, it was very, freeing. It was very liberating for me. So, all of it kind of works hand in hand, but I'm a woman that's on a global mission to motivate, to celebrate, illuminate, and liberate others through my words, work, and wisdom.
And alliterate, apparently.
Yes, that too. That too.
Cool.
That's a great word. Thank you.
So let's get some context. Let's roll it back and talk about you a little bit right before you met your, I guess we'll call him the NFL husband. Yeah.
Right, right. My former spouse, absolutely. So, I grew up in modest beginnings. It wasn't like I had this, silver spoon in my mouth, or that I knew, what it was to have an enormous amount of money at that particular time. I grew up, very modest, and I met him in high school. So, yeah, so we were, I guess, quote unquote, high school sweethearts, as some would term it.
Was he like a big deal in high school, like the best player in the state, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, he
And with the
was.
commensurate ego, I would imagine.
A lot of ego, and there's still a lot of ego to this day with him.
Mhm.
So yeah, love him to life though. But yeah, so we met in high school, and we dated off and on all throughout high school, throughout his collegiate career, which he actually went to the University of Georgia, and he received his degree in business management, real estate there, and then went on to go undrafted actually in the NFL league in 1992.
So
So
tell us
yeah,
about
so we
that.
met.
Was there was that a tough transition for you all as a couple, or were you with him at that time when he was
Yeah,
undrafted?
I was still with him.
Mhm.
It was on and off. It was this
Mhm.
love-hate relationship.
Mhm.
But yeah, so 1992 was and let me back up a little bit more, because we were high school sweethearts, but we have two children also.
Mhm.
And so our first child was born in 1988,
Mhm.
which was our son. He was not drafted until 1992. So we carried these two children. Yeah. So little Arthur was born in 1988. Auburn, our daughter, was born in 1990. So we had two children leading into the NFL lifestyle also.
Oh wow.
So right. So you're talking about 20-year-olds basically trying to come into their own, define their own, with children, with little eyes, trying to raise them. And then we get thrust into this lifestyle of NFL, which is fast money, a different, I guess, pace life, if you will. So yeah, 1992 was
Well,
just a year of a lot of anxiety.
before he hooked on with a team, I'm guessing
Yes.
you were the means of financial support because I know NCAA players can't earn any money, right?
That is correct to a certain degree. They can't publicly earn
Oh,
any type of money. I mean, let's just be real. Let's be
okay, okay,
transparent, because that's how I get my gigs, because I am truthful.
very good.
So publicly, no, they're not supposed to have any money or whatnot. And no, he did not work. I did. I worked at KFC, but no, his means came from his family, because he had a very a really good lifestyle with his mom and dad, a two-parent home that both of them worked.
Mm.
So that was his means. It wasn't like he lived, off of me. Like I was just out there trying to make it on my own. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm thinking about with a 4-year old and I guess a younger sibling. Like, how was that How are you managing that financially, you know?
Struggling,
Mm.
struggling. So that's why, it's appropriate when you say simple money wins for your podcast, because I had very simple money at that time.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it was a struggle. It was, but I will say that his parents helped out a lot. I had family members, friends that would help out, that would help out also. So, and then, of course, we had the public assistance in different areas that helped me to get to where I needed to be also.
Very good. And then, so then he gets drafted, and I don't know, for anyone who's not a sports fan, an undrafted NFL player is probably making the league minimum. I don't know what it was in 1992, but it's still a healthy salary. Yeah.
Yes, it was very good because he was undrafted, making 75,000. But because in his contract,
Mhm.
if he had so many touchdowns and so many yards, so many this or that, that income actually grew. So he ended up making, I want to say during that time, like 186,000 for his
Oh,
first, yeah, for 1992-93 season, because he met a lot of his incentives.
incentives. I'm actually a big fan of those. Anyway, that's a different conversation.
Me too.
Do you share your husband's name? I mean, I'm not sure what you prefer to.
Absolutely. His name is Arthur Marshall Jr. He was wide receiver for the New York Giants and the Denver Broncos. Actually, the Denver Broncos first, 92-94, and then 94-97 with New York Giants.
I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I'm a New York Giants fan. I was a fan during that time. I remember Chris Calloway. I remember.
Yep, Chris was a very good friend of ours. Yeah, absolutely, and he was a part of that whole trio as far as wide receiver trio. So and what may be why he may be drawing a blank is because he was actually number 86 when he first transitioned to the New York Giants, and then he went to number 83. I don't know why, but that's just the way they have. But he was 86 going into the NFL, and then transitioned to number 83. So.
Okay, very good. So then, so after your husband broke in, you mentioned a couple times the sort of the high life. So what were the peak years during this time? What were those like?
So that would have been, we were actually married in 1993, so that would have been 93, maybe to 95-ish. Those were some pretty decent years, some good years. I still, just overall with the ups and downs within me, my inner self that I had not really worked on and grew. I just struggled. I struggled a lot through all of it. So.
Were you living here in New York or the New Jersey area?
Yes, we were actually in Mahwah, New Jersey. So that's where, yeah, as he commuted to the Meadowlands. So, yeah, which, a lot of the players do that. They don't necessarily live in New York. They live in the surrounding, suburbs and counties and whatnot.
Was there any kind of shock or adjustment for you? Because you mentioned earlier working basically fast food, and then now you're in a very, for those who don't know, a pretty affluent suburb of the New York metro area with a New York Giants husband. I mean, there's a pretty big distinction.
Absolutely. And I guess it was all so fast once it happened, when he got the phone call, obviously, that he was not going to be drafted, but then Dan Reeves actually picked him up to be a wide receiver for the Denver Broncos first. So we went to Aurora, Colorado first, and then 2 years later, then we will be in New York. But at any rate, so yeah, it was very different. It went from me not having a vehicle to having a vehicle. It went from me renting an apartment to now we're homeowners. And it was just like a lot of issues that I had previously, as far as not really knowing how my bills were going to get paid on a KFC salary with 2 children. Obviously, a lot of that frustration, a lot of that unknown went away once he signed on the dotted line, because, he also brought us, the children and I with him. So yeah, it was intimidating. It was a little scary. And then it was exciting all in one, if that makes sense, because, I could then walk into stores and I'm like, oh, I'm not having to punch on the calculator to try to figure out how my simple money is going to pay for XYZ. It's going to pay for XYZ. It was there, and I knew that it was there.
So you mentioned, going from struggling to being a homeowner. So I've always wondered, when you go from not being drafted to signing with the Broncos, I'm sure that's like a flurry of activity of figuring out like where you're going to live. schools? Like how tell me a little bit about that, both going from home to Colorado and again from Colorado to New York. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of similar to the military. So you
Oh, yeah,
have in
good
the
example.
military right. So under that umbrella, you have all of these different organizations or just parts, I guess, people that help you. So like they had already sent Arthur a list of different places he could live, the school zones, banks, all of those things that, made that transition a little bit easier.
But
So it's kind of the
nonetheless,
same. It's kind of the same. Yeah, it's the same as the military. You get a whole lot of help. So it's not like, especially in those days in 1992, like now I can Google certain areas and I could, kind of get the 5-star reviews and all this other kind of stuff. That wasn't what we needed to do at that particular time. There were people in place. All we had to do was make a phone call and they handled everything for us, from even down to the point of airfare, everything.
wow,
We had
that's
everything. We
great.
had FBIs at our disposal if we wanted to get, like when we started selecting nannies for our children and whatnot, getting them investigated or whatever the case was. The NFL was really a very, very good or is. Let me rephrase that. Is a very good organization. I don't want nobody,
Roger
calling
Goodell is not going to like
Right. The NFL is a very good family-oriented organization. It really, really is. And again, my book is not denouncing money. It's not denouncing the NFL. It's not a tell-all. It's not bashing my ex-husband. It is all about me and my growth. Different things that I needed to go through in order to be the woman that sits before you now, so that I could figure out how to go from simple money to, stacks of money. I'm just playing.
So, I mean, you're painting a good picture of how awesome the NFL was and how your life went on this upward trajectory. But, you've obviously mentioned a couple of times that there were some darker sides to that seemingly lavish period of your life. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I just, I was in a period of not really knowing who I was. I was in a period of just, you talk about a 19-year-old who at that particular time had 2 children. Okay, so I had 2 children at the age of 19. So I'm trying to rear children while still really growing and coming into my own. So I just had, I think that whole gap there to where I couldn't really focus on myself. I had to focus on now these 2 children that we had, trying to make sure that, they were disciplined, that they were reared appropriately. It took away from me, and I'm not blaming them, obviously, because that was my decision. That was my choice to have children at that particular age. But still, the work that I really needed to do on myself in order for me to grow and appreciate that NFL lifestyle, I couldn't do it because it was like so many moving parts that required my attention, and a lot of the attention that I needed for myself, I couldn't take advantage of it, even in that lifestyle. Because having people to assist me with the children and other stuff, that was great. But I just still, it was just a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah. Anyone who's not a parent or who hasn't been a parent will probably not get what you're saying. They're saying, "Oh, you had money, you had help. Anyone who is a parent will know, even with all the help in the world, is tough, especially if you're younger.
Tough.
Yeah,
because the money doesn't take away, like what I'm feeling inside my brain or my emotions or my feelings about my children. Like I still have care, concern, worry. There's still a lot of other things that like that goes into making. These people that are now, or these little people that are entrusted into your care, you're trying to make them into decent human beings, and money does not do that. Money does not do that. That's values, that's morals. Those are things that, money can't buy, period. Because I know people who have a lot of money and they don't have any sense.
Although it can be argued that the absence of money can lead to greater odds of turning out quote unquote bad people. I don't want to,
Hey, and that's true.
Bad decisions.
That is correct. But I sincerely believe wholeheartedly that everything is a choice. Because I know people who came from little to nothing and they are phenomenal human beings.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to struggle for everything, working 3 or 4 jobs, or their parents weren't able to adequately prepare for them or care for them. And they are phenomenal people. And then I know people on this hand that had the world given to them, so to speak. They had money at their disposal and they are despicable human beings. So it's a choice. Everything is a choice. Yeah. just like I feel like with Arthur and myself, it was everything was a choice for how we chose to be a part of that NFL lifestyle at that time.
So how did y'all end up getting or splitting up and going from NFL wife to ex?
Well, I will say this. I do believe that it was inevitable because we were always breaking up all the time from the beginning. When I met him in 1987, it was like a constant roller coaster ride. Either he was disowning me or I was breaking up with him. So, I am a firm believer in what you think and what you speak, you receive.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we did that for so many years as far as me yelling about divorce or I wasn't happy and this and that. And so eventually I guess our words and our thoughts met the match of, the universe. And it was just like, okay, here, neither one of y'all are happy, go your separate ways. So that's what we did.
What year was this, or how many years into your NFL wifedom was this?
So that was 1999 when I filed for divorce,
7
November
years.
4th of 1999 to be exact. And then it was finalized in 2000. So we've actually been divorced 20 years.
Happy anniversary? I'm not really sure what to say to that.
Did you say happy anniversary? Now that's funny. But yes, I guess you could. I guess you really could say that. And it was happy anniversary for both of us. So, I jokingly say now I'm like, he wants me back. And actually we're very good friends now. He's supportive. He endorses the book. He endorses my platform, as do other former NFL players, because they know what my story is about. But, now we are such good friends and so much better because of it. It's just one of those things where I think we had to come together. We had to grow, had to figure it out. And now, we're both on separate journeys and we're able to grow a lot better because we're not together.
I mean, was it a rough transition from divorce to finalizing it to your new stage in your life? And,
Yes.
For the family, not just for yourself. I mean, I guess, yeah.
100%. And I'm going to tell you this. So I believe all divorces have the potential to be ugly. And ours was one of them because we were both still very immature. We let a lot of flesh, a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions get into it. With the mindset now, I think it would have been a lot more easier for us to break up and, try to really put the focus on the children where it should have been. But yeah, at that particular time, divorce was woo. I think, what isn't a song that says divorce is hell or it's war? It absolutely was. It absolutely was for us. But we've grown now. So, we started actually understanding why it did not work. And then we stopped this inner battle and fighting towards each other. And we actually started focusing on our children. So that was a rough transition. What was even rougher was me going from from an NFL wife to the secular workforce. Like I actually worked at a biotechnology chemical plant where I did 12-hour rotating shift work. I did that for almost 16 years.
Was this in New Jersey? And did you have 40?
We were back here. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. I did skip around a little bit. So no, we were back home here in Augusta, Georgia at that time. And no, the plant that I worked at was a Monsanto pharmaceutical company at that particular time. And yeah, it was quite a transition, but a needed transition. I always say in interviews, if I had the opportunity to go back and redo my life over, I wouldn't change a thing from, the interaction with him to the NFL lifestyle, to the divorce, to everything, because the way that I needed to grow and evolve into the woman that I am today, I don't think without those stumbling blocks, I don't think I would have been able to turn them into stepping stones to help me to be who I am today. So yes, the transition was very hard. It was hard because I still had these two children that were depending on me, and their dad to try to, make things work, because when we divorced, the children were 9 and 11. So that was a pretty, crucial age for them. And, my heart goes out to them because they actually did fall through the cracks at that particular time, because Arthur and I were, pitting so much against each other. We really didn't give them the attention that they needed, to keep nurturing them, to foster them into, being really good children at that particular time. So they did well. They turned out well, despite me and their dad and whatnot. But yes, that transition period was very difficult.
I have one technical question. So
About simple money.
it is about money. So
Ooh.
how did you pay for your lawyers in the divorce? Did you have your own, I don't want to say allowance, but your own accounts of the money?
I'm so
Yeah.
happy that you asked that question. I will say this. It was very tough because Arthur was a good old Georgia boy.
Mm-hmm.
Went to University of Georgia, and most of the attorneys around here is either Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, University of Georgia, or whatever, right? I want you to know that no one initially would touch my case.
What?
Oh, no one. I mean, it was really, really rough. No one. So I finally found one that was like, okay, yes, $2,500 retainer, and we'll get him to pay for it. Yeah, we'll get him to pay for it because he was the one with money, not me. So that's how I ended up obtaining a lawyer. And, it just went back and forth about stuff that actually it should not have for some time. And I just got tired of it because I really wanted to just start my life and pick my life up to a point to where I could really be happy. And I just signed paperwork like, I don't care what he's giving, what he's not giving. Like, I didn't ask for alimony. I didn't ask for, his pension, his 401. I didn't get any of that. We just decided on a number for child support. And then I went on about my merry way. So.
Okay. So what made you decide? So you said you worked at Mont, the pharmaceutical plant, for 16 years. And when did your book come out?
The book came out in 2017.
So my question is...
all of that time, I was just basically journaling. I was journaling about my life because I was still very bitter. I was very angry about a lot of things. Some of the things pertain to him. Most of the things pertain to me. Just things that I had not done to, I guess, just grow up and to be a better Angela. So I journaled quite a bit about my feelings. And then, people just around here and abroad would just go gaga when they found out that I was a former NFL. Oh, I bet that life was like this. Or I bet this happened. Or, oh my God, or this money and all of this. And I got tired of that one-sidedness. And I decided I'm just going to write a book. I'm going to put it in the book and, give my perspective. And this disclaimer, this is not a book about all NFL wives with a VES. It is wife, WIFE, my perspective. Because believe it or not, everything I say is scrutinized to a T. So I've had people to send me emails and comments like, well, you don't speak for me. I'm a former NFL wife. Nope, I do not. I speak for the story and life of an ex-NFL wife by Angela Marshall. So those are things that I endured, that I overcame, that I, transitioned from and transitioned to, transform, renew in my own life.
What is the title of the book to make sure anyone who's interested can pick up a copy?
So the title of the book is Reality to Rags to Riches, the story and life of an ex-NFL wife.
Very good. And you said that your book is tied into some of your other ventures. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, so I am also a motivational, inspirational presenter. So I get the opportunity, I'm afforded the opportunity to talk about my life, to, travel globally and be on shows, whether it's podcasts, TV, radio shows, just to talk about my journey, because it's one that a lot of people are curious about. Absolutely. And, a lot of people know that money does not buy happiness. But I think when it comes from a person who supposedly, is surrounded with power and status and celebrityism, so to speak, when you hear about a person going through anxiety or depression or like at one time being suicidal, it draws the gasps like, how dare you? Like, because at one time, at my disposal, I had, like $528,000, bam, boom, sitting in an account, but I'm still very unhappy, very miserable within myself. So to be able to tell that story, to be able to talk about, those truths and, those trials that I was able to overcome, is an amazing thing to be able to merge that platform with the book.
Who are the types of audience who seem to benefit most from your talks?
Actually, any and everybody. Now, I will say this. I have a program for the youth. ages 6 to 17. I don't necessarily talk a whole lot about the story and life of an ex-NFL wife, but what is important to them is within my story in life, I talk about being bullied. And I also talk about being a bully myself, being a mean girl, as you know, default because of being bullied. I became a mean girl of sorts. So being able to just take out parts of my story, whether it's under the reality, the rags, or the riches section, I can talk to anybody. I can talk to them about money, about being broke, about having, a lot at your disposal. I can talk about, parenting, the flaws in parenting, the defaults, the defects in parenting. And then also, how I was able to turn things around and really give my children who now have children, give them better advice, give them better suggestions for them to be the parent that I never was. So it's just so many layers to that platform. So it's not just about, like, some people see it and they say, oh, well, you would probably be better talking to women only ages 30 to 60. Well, that's true too. I do a great job talking and speaking with them also, but I've also done co-ed events. I've done where I talk to senior citizens. My platform is broad because I've been through a lot. And that's what the story and life of a former NFL wife, that's really what it's about. It takes you through my entire journey from reality that talks about my childhood, different things that I endured, to the rags pieces, not, knowing who I was, trying to figure out my life during the NFL time, meeting him, school. And then, the richest part, which actually is when I went into the workforce, working a job, 12-hour shift, meeting, other people that poured into me, that gave me the self-confidence to be who I am today.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm just now noticing that my light is putting some lines on my face, so I'm going to take that as a sign that we should sign off.
All right, not a problem.
But thank you again for this, for sharing your story. Don't sign off. I'm just going to say goodbye to our guests, and then I'll say goodbye to you properly. But everyone, check out the book. Is it, I'm assuming, available on Amazon? Yes.
Yes, it's available everywhere. You got Amazon, Lulu, Kindle. You can download it on iBooks. I am like on a global platform everywhere.
And I'll make sure to include links in the show notes and descriptions. Otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk again next time. Thank you.